Mike, check 1 2 1 2. It's the Y2K collector, and there is no doubt that if it's not already, the Nintendo Switch will be more than likely the most collectible console ever made. And why do I say that? I say that because it seems like there's an endless supply of games for you to collect for, regardless of which genre you're looking into. A lot of that is because of a lot of the third party development that's been put into games that have been created for the Nintendo Switch. Another reason for that is because of all of the retro games that have been brought to the Nintendo Switch, including native Nintendo games along with games from other platforms, like games that you would have traditionally seen on the Sega Genesis or games that you would have seen on the PlayStation. Now these games are being brought to the Nintendo Switch, and it's becoming this one-stop shop for gaming of all types and sorts. And it's really up to you, the end user, to decide whether or not you want to make the Nintendo Switch your gaming hub for all things gaming. Now, that creates a number of positives from my perspective as a collector. But then it also creates a number of negatives. And I'm going to talk about that because here in 2025, while yes, I'm a huge retro fan and I do collect for retro consoles, the Switch is going to be the console that I return to once January ends and I really I pick my collecting back up again at a more intense level. And so I kind of wanted to just talk about like my experiences with the Switch, where I think the Switch is going to be going in 2025, and how I think you can really maximize the Switch based on what you like to play. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say this. I do not think it is wise to try to have a complete Switch collection. Do not do that. I know a lot of people, they like to pride themselves on having complete Wii collections, or a lot of people, they want to have complete, Super Nintendo or Sega Genesis collections. The Nintendo Switch is a whole other beast. It's a whole other animal. And to me, one of the largest collections that any collector could have collected for in terms of completing the collection, one of the most ambitious consoles you could go after, in my opinion, was the PlayStation 2. Just because I had always viewed the PlayStation 2 out of all retro consoles as the console with the most massive library. But we're starting to see how the PlayStation 2 library is starting to not look as big when stacked against the Switch library, which is still growing. We're still getting games released, multiple games released for the Switch each month. Each week, it feels like sometimes. And so it's going to be difficult for you as a collector to try and keep up with this and complete the entire library. Because not only do you have to buy Nintendo games, you have to buy all the third-party games, you have to buy all of the limited games, right? Limited run, strictly limited, super rare, Nicalis, Pixel Heart, First Press, Shall I Continue, right? There's so many third parties that have kind of gone with this whole limited shtick that trying to complete the library, you will put yourself in financial ruin trying to do that. Regardless of I don't even care if you got all these games on sale. It's just way too many games. And I think that that is the biggest negative. That's the main negative for me when it comes to Switch collecting, is that I think a lot of times collectors get a little over ambitious in terms of how much they want to build their Switch collection. And they wind up just picking up a lot of stuff that isn't really true to who they are as a gamer, or they just pick it up because it's there. And that's one of the things that I told myself that I was definitely not going to do when it came to the Switch, because prior to selling off, I want to say about 80% of my Switch collection, at one point I had almost 400 Switch games, which is nothing in comparison to the Switch collections that people have now. Because even back in 2020, 2021, when my collection was 300 or 300 plus, you had collectors back then who had collections that were 700 plus games on the Switch, 5, 6, 700. So here we are now 3 years later. I can only imagine the size of the Switch collections that are out there. But at the end of the day, it's really more about curation. And this is where curation comes back. And I feel like the Nintendo Switch is one of the best consoles to curate for. you can have one of the most amazing curated collections for the Nintendo Switch without having to buy every single game that has been released on the console. Now, for me, I'll talk a little bit about my tastes and where I think my collecting will be going here in 2025. For one, I am a big fan of 3D hack and slash or 3D adventure games. I'm a big fan of that, which is why you see games like, or a game like Astral Chain that's in my current collection. Astral Chain is an extremely fun game. It has a very interesting story. A father who's a police chief, his son and daughter, they're also officers in this police force that kind of uses alien technology to kind of share this almost like symbiotic relationship with each officer. They have a device that tethers them to each of these aliens. And I guess what happened was these aliens, they invaded Earth, and there was no other way to stop them other than capturing them and then taming them, right? And basically bending them to your will using this technology that basically tethers the alien to you. And so you use the aliens to fight against the aliens. And it's a very interesting story, a very good hack and slash game. I've gotten pretty far in it, but I haven't completed it yet. But games like this, and then obviously games like Ease, classic story here, an action RPG game that's just colorful and beautiful. I'm a big fan of those. So that's definitely going to be a genre that I tap into here in 2025. Not going to pick up every single game in this genre or in this lane, but these are games that I will be going after. Another type of game that you'll see me go after are interesting 2D sprite-based games that I think are just interesting. A game like Golf Story is very interesting to me. It's kind of like a combination between an RPG and a classic golf game. I grew up playing games like Cyber Tiger, Mario Golf, and I'm a fan of golf, period. I was a caddy at one point. I was a caddy in the Buick Classic, which is a tournament that's held in Harrison, New York. So I've worked on golf courses when I was younger and when I was in high school. So I'm a fan of Golf Story. I have the digital version, of course. And it's going to be games like this, particular games like this that I may get. Some of those like interesting top-down RPG games. A couple of other good examples would be games like Eastward, Octopath Traveler, games like that. I may dabble in those games. They won't make up the lion's share of what my collection is about. I'm always going to make room for compilation games, right? So when compelling compilation games come out for the Switch this year, I'm definitely going to make sure that I take notice. And if it's something worth my while, I'll be picking it up. Something like a Super Mario 3D All-Stars is just a great way to make a one-stop shop for some of your favorite Mario games from the 6th, 7th, and is it 8th? No, pretty much just the 6th. Yeah, no, the 6th. Sorry, the 5th, 6th, and 7th generation. I apologize. You've got Mario 64, which is 5th, Super Mario Sunshine, which is 6th, and then Super Mario Galaxy, which is 7th. So the 5th, 6th, and 7th generation of Mario games, the flagship Mario games, is a great compilation game, and you're going to see a lot of this. There's a ton of compilations that have come out on the Nintendo Switch, including the Castlevania collection, the Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, the Contra collection, the Capcom Fighting collection, right? So you're going to see a lot of these compilation games that just make a lot of sense for me to collect physically because they allow me to consolidate a bunch of really fun games onto one cart. So that's definitely going to be a lane that I travel down here in 2025. Another batch or genre of games you're definitely going to see me dive into are those 2D beat 'em ups. And along with 2D beat 'em ups, you might as well put in there 2D hack and slash games. So River City Girls to me is one of the best. It still is one of the best beat 'em ups on the Nintendo Switch. There are a ton of beat 'em ups that have come out for the Nintendo Switch. Too many for me to even start to name off. But I don't know if many have executed the beat 'em up format quite as well as River City Girls. Strictly from the fact that River City Girls isn't just like your standard left to right beat 'em up. It's actually an open world 2D beat 'em up, which is a little difficult to do, but they do it in a really cool way where you can go down different alleyways, different corridors. They do a really good job of making it feel open while still maintaining that left to right beat 'em up 2D pixel art style. I also love the extensive move list that both girls have in this game. While yes, it does feel a little cheesy and it does feel like they've kind of stolen moves from some of the best fighting games in history, I think they still do a good job of making this game its own, and all of the enemies, all of the boss battles are just sick. The animated cutscenes in between, just really really cool. They did a really good job, and then the best part about this game, honestly, is the music. You get that '90s, Stranger Things type sounding music in this game. That just really cool '80s sounding music, and I really dig River City Girls. When you think about 2D sprite-based hack and slashers, you all know what my favorite is. Say it all with me. Blasphemous, right? So games like River City Girls, Blasphemous, another one that kind of falls into the 2D side-scrolling. You have your run and gun shooters. So games like Hunt Down, which I don't have here, but Hunt Down is an OG in that 2D space. So definitely count on me to pick up more games like that. I've gotten a lot of comments on my page about picking up Iron Meat. It's not a game that I've picked up yet. Maybe I'll pick it up, maybe I won't. I'll have to see. It's not high on my priority list. There's actually a lot of other games that I'd like to get back in my collection before I get Iron Meat. One of them is Steel Assault. Steel Assault is a very cool game. I sold my copy and I kick myself every day for selling my physical copy. I still have the digital copy, that's how I play it. But it's a very fun game, very nostalgic game too. It's like if you like Hunt Down, you will like Steel Assault. But definitely count on me to have these types of games as well. And then also, probably won't see a ton of these games produced, but Dust is kind of an example of a different style of 2D side scroller that I'm going to be diving into. This is more of that Vanillaware, Odin Sphere, Dragon's Crown style side scrolling hack and slasher. Where they do a really good job with the artwork. I'm a sucker for artwork. I'm a sucker for great pixel art and just games looking beautiful and having great music. And Dusk, for a game that has such intense hack and slash battling, the music is so serene and it's just a calming nature about this game. Very cool game. If you've never played Dust, I definitely recommend you check it out. And so definitely going to see a lot of that. And then last but not least, what you're definitely going to see me pick up in 2025 are games that force me to get active. Fist of the North Star Boxing is a game that I got in the beginning of last year. It is a active boxing game where you use the Joy-Cons to simulate boxing, basically your shadow boxing. It's a game that forces you to shadow box. And I'm going to be definitely playing a lot of games like that. I have a 4-year-old who's getting more and more active each day. So games like this just get her going. Other games that you'll see me play, you'll see me collecting more games that are along the lines of like a Ring Fit. Judge me now, but better believe I'm going to be picking up a couple of Just Dance games, right? My daughter loves Just Dance, and believe it or not, you'll bust a mean sweat, dancing to a couple songs in Just Dance. So I know that I look like an idiot every time I play that game, but it's a great workout, right? For the days that you miss the gym, and I have a ton of fun playing those games with my daughter. So I mean, that's kind of where my focus is going to be with the Switch for 2025. And I think this is a good way to keep me from just starting to buy a bunch of stuff that I'm not into. I'm not going to be buying first-person shooters. I'm not a first-person shooter type of guy. I'm not super into the turn-based RPGs. That's not going to be the world that I'm in. There's a lot of things that I know that I'm not going to buy. Which I think is really important once you start considering how large the Switch library is. So that's going to be the overall focus. Switch collecting in 2025 will definitely be different, and I'm interested to know your thoughts and how you plan on navigating the Switch library, what games you're focused on, what genres you're focused on. Let me know down in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video. It's the Y2K Collector. Take it easy.